Alrighty, I'll be starting here in just a minute, gathering my supplies. We're going to start with a black background. I have a roughly, I don't know, 2.5 foot board here in front of me. It's a 1x6. Yeah, I'm just trying to see what you see while I'm doing this, and it's delayed. Alright, got myself some paper plates, styrofoam. Got myself a purple paint cup. Some water in it so I can clean my brushes. A wide variety of brushes. Gotta find my round ones. Okay, so I have my flat less than 1 inch brushes here, some smaller ones here as well. I like to have a variety. If you bought the pack that I had shown in the comments section from Walmart, it's less than $6. You get quite a few good brushes. You get round and flat in there of different sizes, so that's perfect to go beginning your painting adventures on. I like to use the bigger round brushes like you would get in your watercoloring containers, I guess, for making his beard. It's just kind of easy to goop on a lot of paint there, and then some smaller ones for details. Alright, because I'm going to do the background all one color, I'm just going to go ahead and clean my thing off here first because it's really dusty. And put the paint directly on my board. If you don't want to do that because you want it to be, I don't know, different for some other reason, you can go ahead and put it on a plate first. Always shake your paints. Obviously hold your finger over the lid in case for some reason it's not on there securely. You don't want paint all over wherever you're working. I'm just going to go ahead and drizzle some of this on here. Now, as much as you use depends on the size of your board or your canvas that you're working on. You can do this painting on any kind of canvas or surface that you like. It's just using what I have in my studio here. I'm pushing that paint right down and around, cover my back. If you are working on something like a stretched canvas or a chunk of wood like this, you'll want to also get your edges. It's always important to paint your edges. Otherwise, it looks unfinished. If you are going to be framing your masterpieces, then doing your edges doesn't really matter because those will be covered up when you're framing. So I have a lot of paint on this board, so I'm just pushing it around, trying to drag it so I don't have to put any more down. I'm using a 2-inch painting brush right now. And a Bob Ross theme going on there. He always loved his 2-inch brushes. Those of you who have come to my workshops know I mention him a lot. He does oil paints, not acrylic, but the wet on wet concept that I use a lot comes from that, because oil paintings do not dry quickly at all. Alright, so my back is painted. the edges. I'm going to grab those. At this point, I'm going to put a little paint on a plate. And get squish out there. Alright. If you're watching this on a phone, it might be crooked. Because I have my phone recording it, and I have to have it landscape, so side to side or vertical, or sorry, horizontal, so that you can see the whole thing. Always cover your work surface with something, unless you're working on an old workshop bench. That doesn't really matter. But you could use a garbage bag if you don't have a tablecloth or something you can cover up your table with. So keep that in mind. Now if I really wanted to, I could essentially paint this board on all sides and have another complete painting on the other side and just call it something that, you know, like a porch sign that would lean up against the wall or the house, and then you could have it out 2 different seasons or 2 different holidays. Today I'm just going to paint the one side. Whenever we do our workshops, I always try to do some reversible projects just so you get a little bit more bang for your buck when you're coming to my studio or to any of my events. I don't think I mentioned, I apologize, my name's Jennifer. So, I appreciate you guys watching today. This will be, this recording will be put up later, and you can watch it at any time in the video file folder area. Alright, I've got the entire thing painted there. Get my plate out of the way. Just run my brush over the top again, make sure you don't have any fingerprints on it. Make sure you don't have any drips when you do the edges. Sometimes it drips down the front, so correct that. Put my paintbrush in my water cup. And then, if you have a hair dryer or a heat gun or something that can speed up the drying process, you could use that, or you could just sit and wait for this to dry. But you do want to have it dry before you do the next step. Move my ceramic pieces out of the way that I did the other day so I don't break those. Made some trees out of coils. Oh, maybe a sneak peek here. So this is just wrapping a coil around a cone form and sticking a star on it. Used some slip to make it look like it had snow dripping down. There's another one I created. It's a cookie cutter. The stars and the small ones from the center of the bigger ones. And attach it again around the cone shape. Make it kind of look like a tree. Those have to be fired yet. We do have that workshop coming up on the 10th of November. I suggest sticking to a small cone. I have them, they're about 8 to 9 inches tall. We can make taller versions with rolling up some newspaper about the size of our witches hats that we did before. They're roughly 12 inches tall. Anything more than that becomes too much for people to work on. It takes a long time, especially the glazing process. You can ask my friend Michelle. Her and Ricky were over here the other day and glazing their witches hats, and we're here for probably about 4 hours. Jennifer. I'm actually going to be painting a gnome on a black background. Kind of a Christmassy gnome. Right now I'm drying my board off so I can paint without it turning gray or muddy. Okay, so I typically buy matte colored paints. When it's shiny, it's wet. When it's dull, it's dry. It's easy to tell that way. If you buy shiny paint, then you need to touch it, see if it's dry. My edges are still a little wet, but I'm going to go ahead and get going here soon. Now, the hat of the gnome is kind of like a plaid look. So the fun part about this is we're only going to be doing a couple lines here and there and leaving the black in between. And I'll show you how to do that, but I want to grab a colored pencil if I can find one, preferably white, so we can see it on the board when we draw our gnome. All right, and quickly I went to my drawer and I found some charcoal pencils, I guess. So, again, I apologize it's crooked. I'm going to start up here at the top. I'm going to give it a nice ball on top of his hat there. Now, if you want, you could trace around something like the bottom of your purple paint cup there. If you wanted to have a nice perfect circle, that would be fine. The majority of this gnome is his hat. So I'm going to say out of this thing here, I'm going to go about 2/3 the way down, roughly. I'm going to put his nose in here in the middle. And his nose is just kind of a big oval. Okay. I know you might not be able to see that with the camera being up so high. And then my hat, we'll draw, I could use a yardstick or a ruler. That would come in really handy. Of course, mine's are over in the other side of the garage, so hey, look, paint stick. Just to try to make sure my hat stays somewhat straight with my nose. So it's kind of centered. With chalk, you can, you know, kind of smush it and erase it. All right. And now it's going to come down to the edge. Go right to the bottom of his nose down here. That's where the hat is going to go. It's going to curve up over his nose, but that's kind of where it's going to stop. All right. So I'm just going to kind of draw that line through there. And that's my hat. Okay. And then we've got to go up from there. Now it could be a little wobbly kind of a thing going on here, like he's got folds and creases in if you want, or you can just go straight up. And again, if you want to use a yardstick just to kind of eyeball that, make sure you're not going to go off, or like I like to do things, just kind of go a little wonky, and it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. Makes it a lot more interesting. All right, so there's the shape of his hat. You've got the ball on the top, you got the hat there, you got his nose here. The beard is going to kind of pretty much take up the rest of it there. On the original picture, it has him holding a heart with his mittens, and then it has some holly green or something coming out of that. So if you want to put that there, you can put that there. Try turning this a little bit so I don't have to try to draw it sideways. Get stuff out of the way. Alright, so his little hands, if we want to go like what's in our original picture here, we're going to make kind of a really, really weird looking C or an L. It's kind of just kind of curved a little. Okay, that's that part around his cuff there. All right, and then the rest of it's going to kind of come up. Here's his thumb. Here's his mitten. All right, because we're drawing this with colored pencil or with a pencil first, if we screw up, we can always make that correction. Like I'm noticing it's really kind of off to one side here. So I can either use some paper towel and water, because again, this is a chalk pencil, or if you have a eraser, you can erase it. Just trying to get it to fit on this board. All right, let's try again. All right, line here, a big parentheses, start with that way. And then we'll put this a little bit smaller than it was the first time. So we have giant parentheses there. I'm gonna bring out his thumb on both sides. That way we can see that they're the same. Bring up the bottom part of his mitten. Top part of his mitten. Let's kind of go here like this. We'll kind of overlap them a little. And again, we can correct anything with our paint later if we want. Instead of, well, I mean, it's got a heart on that one, but let's just give them some holly or something to hold on to. So holly. Get another one over here. We can give some berries. We could have another sprig coming out anywhere we want. So we'll just kind of leave it like that for now. All right. Now, like I said, it's going to be a plaid hat. So jumping back up to my hat up here, we have my center line that I'll be using my paintbrush to go down. And if it's a little wobbly, that's okay. You're also going to have another line that's going to come down this way. And another line that's going to be over here. All right. And then we're going to give this guy a brim. So just going to be kind of wonky little brim there. And then we got to start our plaid. So our plaid is just the lines that goes across. And I'm not worried about if they're straight or not. I'm just trying to give myself idea of where those lines are going to be. All right, so it looks like a big old checkerboard right now. I'm gonna switch to, based on the size of my hat here, probably, I don't know what size brush this one is here. They usually have numbers on them. This one is either covered with paint or wore off. I'd say it's about a 1/2 inch. You kind of hold it up there and see if it fits. Put underneath the hat, and you're going to bring it down that way. So about a 1/2 inch. So if you want to grab a 1/2 inch brush. I'm going to switch over to my red paint on my plate. Now again, give it a good shake. Put a dollop on your plate. All right. Get your brush nice and fill those bristles up. You know, push it back and forth on your plate a little bit. Really fill those bristles up. Excuse me, I can't speak right now. It's not dripping off my brush, but it is definitely got a lot on there, okay? I'm going to come up here right underneath the circle. And I'm just going to bring it down following that line. All the way to the brim. Bring it back up the other way, going over it again. Okay, now how solid you want that is just going to depend on your own personal preference. I'm not going to try to make it 100% filled because I want it to look like the plaid, so where it crosses over, these are going to be darker. So I'm going to go ahead and do my next line. I'll start at the brim this time and work my way up. I might have to turn my paintbrush at some point so that it doesn't go off the outside of my hat there. So I'll do that again, show you I'm pressing, and then when I get to the point where it's about to run off my hat, I flip my brush, and my brush is now going in this direction instead of this direction, and I finish off. Now when I get to that point where it's coming to the end there so that I don't have this fat little blob just there, I lift off the pressure off the paintbrush from my board there. So lifting the pressure off. So again, one, twist, and lift up and off. All right. And then this last one over here, go my brush up again, starting at the brim, working my way up. When it gets close to the edge, I might have to turn it to finish. All right, his brim has actually got some on it too. If you want to kind of make the line a little crooked, like it's, you know, rounded a bit, you can. So I'm just going to kind of make it almost like a little C, super little. It starts up here and I move it to the right slightly. I come down and then I swing it back down to the left. All right, so on this side here, I start with the right side, come down to the left, and then swing it back over. My direction's wrong, but this was right, that one was wrong. All right, and then this one can kind of be just off to the side, and he's just going to be straight up and down. But if you've ever noticed when you're rolling up your cuffs or whatever, if you ever wear a plaid shirt, they never line up, so always just make it a little off. Okay. Now you might want to dry this so that you're not blending your colors again, and that you're not really going to blend colors. But if you try to repaint over top of wet paint, sometimes it just picks it right up off again. So I'm going to quickly dry this. Doesn't have to be perfect. Depending on how much paint you had on your brush is going to how long it's going to take to dry it. All right, coming on this way, letting brush crossed. Here in this next line. The more you press down with your paintbrush, the wider it's going to spread out your bristles. So if you want a really thin, fine line, you can't have a lot of pressure. You should be able to notice, I think from that distance, maybe not, maybe I'll zoom in a little bit, where it crosses over because it's got 2 layers of paint on, it's actually showing up a little bit darker like plaid would. So it's kind of a nice little effect. If you want your plaid to be thicker, you can make your lines wider. Starting at the outside brim of the hat, going to the other side of the hat. And if you really, really want straight lines because you're super like mathematical and have to have straight things, you could get out a ruler and paint next to your ruler. Just lay your bristles right next to it and paint. You get better at painting and drawing straight lines the more you practice them without a ruler. But any kind of straight edge would be fine if you wanted to use one. All right, let's see. I think I want him a little bit fatter. So I'm going to run my paintbrush down the side and make it a little wider. Those are those kind of decisions you can make before or after you start the next step. There's no right or wrong way of doing things sometimes unless you have a specific outcome in mind. And then of course you could have a right or wrong way, but not with my art classes. You guys know that, you know, I'm pretty free with how we do things. I don't expect anyone's to ever look the same twice. I know mine don't ever look the same twice. So don't stress. If you make a mistake, if you really hate it, you can always throw more paint over top of it and start over again. Just wait till it dries. Come down here, make this guy a little wider, right up to the edge. Over this side, make him wider. I have to make my brim a little bit wider down here now. Alright, I'm going to go back in the other direction and make those stripes a second brush wide. Typically, if I was going to keep it this wide, I probably would have started with a 1-inch brush, but I wasn't sure until I started painting, so. Didn't want to really commit to that large stroke. I notice a lot of my ladies that come to my workshops like the smaller brushes. Feel a little bit more confident in controlling them. So start with a smaller one. You can always add more. Now Plaid usually has those nice even squares. Mine are not super even right now, so I'm not too concerned about that. But if you are, when you're drawing out your template there with a pencil or white colored pencil or something, or chalk pencil like I did, you can measure it if you want. Grab a ruler, measure out the size of your squares. It's a little cold out here today. Oops, I didn't want to paint that. Oh well, too late. I can go back and make it black later. Alright, so there we have that. If you wanted to make it a different color, you could make it a different color. You don't have to do red and black, but that's pretty much his hat for now. So I'm going to grab some white. Give my paint some shake there. Again, holding on to the lid, because if you notice it gets kind of gunked up and that doesn't press on tight, and then you'd have paint all over everything. Alright. Alright. Now for his nose, depending on what color brown you have, to make a skin color, okay, that peachy color, if you didn't buy a specific peach or whatever, you can use a little brown, a little orange, and white mixed together, and you're going to end up with that skin tone, unless you want them to be darker, then just kind of leave out some of that orange and try mixing a couple different things there. You can put red in it if you want with the brown. But let's see here. I'm going to grab one of these little guys. It's a flat brush again. Into there, into there. Alright. Always take dark into light. Starting with your light, add a little dark at a time. Otherwise, if I would have just taken this whole thing, it would be a lot darker than what this is. If I like that color, I can paint that on his nose. If I want something different, I can add a little, like I said, red or orange to it. I can bring in some more white if I wanted a little lighter. He's a gnome after all. He probably doesn't see a lot of sun. He kind of likes the winter months. Alright. So, I'm going to go ahead and paint in his nose so I know where it's at. Make it as big or as small as you want. It sticks up over the cap a little bit, so we're going to do that, make it bigger than my original drawing there. Alright, I might go over that again, so if you need to mix up more of that skin tone, you can later, or if it's still not dry, you can always use it again. More often than not, it ends up drying out before you have a chance to reuse it, so you'd have to mix up some more. I'm just going to rinse off my paintbrush here. So I like that size for my round. Alright, I'm going to go into my white. I'm going to do the ball of my hat because, you know, it's there. So I'm just following my line that I had previously drawn on there. And again, you could have traced that with like the bottom of a cup or a quarter, depending on how big your painting is. It's going to determine the size of your hat and the little ball on top up there. My red was a little wet, so it's a little bit pink through here, but that's okay because I have to put another coat over it anyway to cover up the black. I'm going to dry now, so excuse the noise. Now, like I said, when I like to do their beards, I like to use one of the fat round brushes like you would find in a watercolor set. This happens to be a number 6, depending on the company. Usually the sizes are pretty similar, but so that's a nice round brush there. I've got the white on my page. Now you can decide how white hair, his beard, you want it to be. Do you want it to be more gray? Do you want it to be a little red? Do you want it to be brown? It's totally up to you. I'm going to go ahead with dipping my paintbrush into my white. If you notice there, I twisted it. Okay, it brings it back to a point. If I want to make it a little bit gray, I can bring some of that black over here. Remember, just a little bit of black to your white. And I'm going to take a line right underneath his hat, up next to his nose. And again, if I'm trying to do small, intricate detail around some of these things, I can't put a lot of pressure on my paintbrush. If I push down hard, the bristles spread out. Okay, so to keep that fine line, or you can use a smaller brush to do this in this area. They're barely touching the board there. Okay, the reason why I'm doing a little bit of a gray up through here is because there's a shadow underneath his hat. You can add a little black in there if you want. Darken it up a little. Okay, and then just go in and re-dip a lot. So I'm going to come in with my round brush of my white again under his nose. Okay. I twist as I'm going down. You can avoid this if you want to try to paint around it. I'm going to paint over it, and then I'll just paint it back in later. But you could definitely go around it since you already have it drawn on there, if you drew it on there. If you didn't like it, well, hey, go over it. Paint right on over it right now. All right. If you ever get too white and you want to add that little bit of darkness back, you can dip into the black again a little bit and draw some lines through there. Twist, turn, curly. Bring him down. Look, his hair's coming all out crazy. Really gobbing it on there. I find it easier to paint when I have a lot of paint on my brush. Otherwise it starts to dry too fast on me when I'm trying to blend. I like to blend right on my board or my canvas. If you like to pre-mix your colors and then do like painting in the lines like here, then you would want to mix your color on your palette. I'll probably grab a little bit of that nose color just because it's right next to my white, so he might have a little brown in his beard, and that's okay. Go up and hit black, grab a little of that so we can get a little variation in his beard. I'm going to need more white paint, so I'm going to squeeze that on. If you're a true artist, your third hand would be your mouth. If you wanted to paint this a lot faster, you could use a larger brush. You could use like the 1-inch brush and then just turn it to its side. So like if you wanted to paint a whole bunch of these and you want to be really fast about it, I would grab one of these. Ooh, I don't have one here. One of these brushes and paint in this direction instead of this way. Now, if you're just painting one solid color, you're not going to get all these fun streaks through here. Because it's on a black background, you will have that white paint really soak in. So you'll have some streakiness going on. So it's up to you how much color you want to add. You could have painted the whole thing like a solid gray color if you wanted to, and then come back through and add some white streaks for his beard. That would have been an option to do. Like if you go, oh my goodness, I screwed this up. No, you didn't. You didn't screw it up at all. Okay. I'm going to call that done. So it's very streaky here on this side, but it kind of looks like hair. Gnome hair, at least. Maybe not hair we'd have on our head, but you know, the gnome he does. I'm going to dry it. Don't forget, if you want your gnome to be going over the edges, you could paint his beard down around the side here if you'd like, so it doesn't just end up black. But if you wanted to do something on the other side, I would leave this solid black because then it doesn't compete with whatever you paint on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and add a second coat to this ball up here. I can get my paintbrush cleaned out. Got a lot of black water. I might have to rinse that out again here soon. I'm painting out in my studio, so I don't have any running water right now. In the summer I will. I'll hook it up to my hose and my A little utility sink that I picked up. But in the winter, fall, I guess it's not really winter yet. Feels like it right now. It's kind of chilly. I do have a heater in the garage, so it does kick down every once in a while. If it gets noisy, I apologize. Okay, so now the hat ball up there, you can decide if you want to make it look like it's got a shadow or something underneath it. If you want to make it kind of wonky, like it's a fuzzy thing. Mix up a gray. Again, taking the black and the white on one of the round brushes. I have a lot of them, so I'm just going to keep grabbing. And I'm just going to kind of do some dabs and dobs and kind of think of golf ball. Okay. So I'm going to start just on the one side and add some of that in there. Kind of fan it out a little. Go back in, grab some of my white, plop that down. You can just kind of do dots if you want. Give it kind of that look. You can kind of go outside your lines a little. That way he'll look a little bit more fuzzy and less perfect. So you're going to have to decide which way you want, because once you do this, there's no going back unless you make your ball really, really big. Again, you could always paint over it. You can always do more than one. The more you do, the better you're going to get at them. All right, I'm going to let that dry a little bit, then I'll come back in with some more white and brighten that up again because it got kind of gray. Continues to dry, I'm going to go ahead and put another coat on his nose. So I'm going to go back into this color, and if I have to mix it up again, I do, or I can make it a little lighter. Paint over it. Grab some of that darker, put this under part down here. That way it gives him a little highlight right away on his nose. And a little shadow. If you ever want to watch someone else paint online, you can watch Donna Dewberry with her one-stroke painting. The way she loads her brush with two different colors and everything blends really nicely. It's something a skill that you can work on. It's not something most people master in one day, but it is something that you guys could work on, and then it makes life a lot easier when it comes to blending stuff smoothly. I really need to clean out my water. Grab another cup. Alright. So we have his nose, we have his hat, we have his beard. It's probably still a little too wet to work on. Now on the original picture we had the green of the branch going up here. Kind of like a Charlie Brown tree almost right there on his hat. And then there was some green here. So his gloves and the ribbon that tied around his hat were blue. You can make those any old color you want. It just depends on, you know, what you're feeling like. You can leave them white. You could put some glitter on it if you wanted to. You could just run a bead of glue. So like white Elmer's glue, the school glue. You could draw your ribbon on there with the glue and then come in with some glitter and sprinkle that. Hopefully it's still playing. I lost my feed on Facebook over there, my computer. Quick jump up here and see if it's still recording. Whoop, yep, still recording. All right, so it's probably just my internet went out on my computer. So, like I was saying, if you wanted to put glitter on there, that would be kind of cool and give it a fun little thing. I would do the glitter part last. So if you wanted to put a tag on it, like it says Gnome Sweet Home or Gnome for the Holidays, actually is what it said, you can do that. I'm going to leave that off. That's a lot of little writing. If you have a Silhouette or a Cricut machine at home, you could print out a font on some permanent vinyl, and you could put a little tag on there that said something if you wanted to. You could actually have a tag that you purchased from a store or whatever. Maybe you have them around your house for the holidays, and you could stick a tag on it like that. You could use some craft paper and do something there. So you can get really creative with these. You don't have to stick with just paint. It could be a lot of fun to make it more of a mixed media piece. All right, so now I'm going to grab this itty bitty brush. It's a detail brush. I can't see what size. 2 over 0, I think is what it is. Round. And this way I'm going to go in with my tree on his hat. Is it really a tree? I think it's a tree. It's so weird. All right, so I'm going to come in here with my brown and my nose color. I'm going to try to follow my line here. And if it's a little wonky or wobbly, that's fine. Remember, the more you press down, the more those bristles fan out. So if you want a really thin line, you have to have little pressure. If you want a fatter line, then you can go ahead and press harder. What I find a lot of people doing is they try to press the paint out of their paintbrush. So they press down to get that paint that kind of comes this way. And when you do that, it makes your line wider. So if you want to keep that nice skinny line. All right, so we're going to do that. Because I had the darker brown and that nose color on there, it kind of gives it a look of bark or tree, because it's got your automatic highlights and shadows. Now I'm going to make the bottom here a little bit wider. When it comes up, it just get a little narrower. All right, come back in here, get my plate. I see that there. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a branch off of here. And a branch off of here. And then I'm going to come up a couple spaces, and I'm going to do a branch here. The picture, they're just going straight, so I'm just following what the picture is. Ooh, my nose is cold. Anyone else have a cold nose? Or hands? My hands are always cold. The other day I walked into school and it felt like it was freezing in my classroom. Wearing my mask, and I almost could see my breath. I swear to God, it was that cold in my classroom. I had to email my maintenance guy and say, I don't normally complain that it's too cold, but it's cold. So he turned the heater up for me, which is nice. So we can't turn it up. So, all right. Typically, when you're doing a tree, things go in a V shape, okay, or a Y shape. Some people say, because the branches are reaching up to the sky. But when it comes to pine trees, they kind of don't. They kind of go the other way, because they get so heavy that they kind of hang down. So have at it, do whatever you want. Put as many of these on as you want. Put one more here at the top, small little guy. All right. That'll leave room up here for the crazy ribbon. But there's my tree branch. All right. I'm going to need green because, it's an evergreen. Let's see if I have green in my bucket here. I do, but it's like this neon green. I don't really want that. So I'm going to have to mix up a green. I'm going to start with this spring green that I have here. All right. And then I'm also going to grab some of my blue. I don't want that one. I'm going to grab a darker one. This one is cobalt hue. I'm going to put that next to it. Okay, I'll go to Bruce when I'm done here. All right, rinsing out my brush. I don't want to get all the water out of there. Okay, I'm going to mix up, not all of it, because I'm going to probably want some of that lighter green there anyway. But I'm pulling some of that together, mixing it around. Another way to darken up a green would have been to add some black. This kind of makes it more blue. But if you wanted to do like a a green with just the black. That'll darken it up for you too. I'm almost out of black. See if I can grab some more from over there. There we go. Now it's going to turn whatever color you started with darker. This is obviously more blue because the spring green is not a true green color. Typically I would have used, well, if you don't have green, blue and yellow, and then mix those up. But if you have a little bit of white in your paints, it's gonna make it look kind of grayish. Anyway, okay. So now just these little sprig guys here, we're gonna be about the same size. So I come towards my trunk and I'm just gonna push out and up. Okay, I'm gonna redip. I'm gonna grab another color that's on there. All right, I'm gonna go into that bright green as well. Put a couple strokes into that one. And then I'm gonna come down with it too. If you're not happy with the color green you have, you can always do this later. There's a lot of green paints at the store that you can buy. Let's see what I have here. Got a lot of metallic-y. That one's gloss. It says real green. Let's give this one a try and see what this looks like. So I've got that spring green and the blue cobalt hue, and I mix those together, and I added a little black to the spring green. This one here is, whoops, there it goes. It's real green. It's still an apple barrel. This one is glossy, so this one won't look dry or matte when it's dry. And then I'm just going to come out to this side and do the same thing over here. So I can leave some spaces in between if I want, because then I can go back through with my other colors. You know, just add some more little sprigs here and there. I could go into my brown if I wanted to, because, you know, sometimes they're dead or dying. All right. And continue my way up his hat. If your bristles are starting to get too fat, take your paintbrush, run it, and twist your paintbrush on the plate. It'll bring it back to that nice tip for you. And then you can keep working on those finer lines. Redipping a lot, switching up the colors, trying to keep your tree branch bristles, your pine needles here, about the same length. As you're going up the tree, they're going to get a little bit smaller, but on each branch we want them to be about the same length. Let's grab some of that darker color and throw a little bit of that in there. My paintbrush is starting to flare out again, so I'm going to go ahead and twist it on my plate one more time there. Scoop up some of that paint. Paint my pine needles. All right, noticing as I'm going up the tree, they are getting a little bit smaller. My heater kicked on. Yay! Alright, go ahead and twist my paintbrush, grab that paint again. finish up these last few pine branches. Now, you don't have to put these on there. If you don't want to do it, don't put them on there. If you don't like the way it looks, then just don't do it. I know a lot of times we get a little nervous when it comes to doing something not like what we have seen. You know, maybe you do crafts and you want to make something exactly like you saw over and over and over again. And that's fine. But sometimes you have to kind of think outside of the box. When I did my Jeep gnomes the other day, I was using a photo as a reference. It was a red pickup truck. I made it a Jeep instead because my husband likes Jeeps. And it needed something else. It needed more because it was just too bare. So I had to make the decision to add the pine trees. And then I'm looking at it and I go, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to drill holes in this thing. And I drilled holes through my board and I put the lights to go through it. It's not anything that I've seen. It wasn't exactly like the image I was, referencing. But if I wouldn't have done it, I wouldn't have liked the finished product because it was just too bare. It was just the Jeep. So I had to add the pine trees to it, and I had to add the lights. I painted a couple of the lights so when I have them in the tail light, they cute. They actually are red when I light it up. Here, I'll grab it real quick while I'm waiting for that to dry. So, this is my painting of my Jeep with my gnomes hanging off there. And the pine trees, the image was a red pickup truck. So, first of all, I changed it by making it a Jeep. And then I wanted the gnomes, hanging off with the lights. But instead of just painting dots of color, I actually went through and added a little LED light pack to it. Just taped it here to the back. I can flip it on and off. And these are all white. There's 10 lights to a string, so there's 8 here. And I painted these 2 red so that we'd have red for the Jeep. Super cute. Super fun. Definitely a workshop we could do if you guys really want to. And it doesn't even have to be a Jeep. It could be the red truck. I know so many people like that old red truck. So we could do that. Whew. Okay, so this green stuff has to dry. I'm going to go back down over here to the beard. Otherwise I could turn on the hairdryer, but it's so noisy. Like, why bother? Let's see if I can reload my Facebook page and see if it'll bring me back into the video feed. Yep, it did. Good. Alright. I'm going to be putting some white on, and you could do this again with glitter. That would be really fun. I'm going to make it look like it has some snow on it, so he's going to have some snow like on the brim of his hat, and we're going to have some snow up through his tree a little bit later here. This is not the paintbrush I want. One's too small. This is a good one. Alright. I should probably grab another paintbrush, or another paper towel. Rags work good too if you have any kitchen rags that you don't really want anymore, or bathroom hand towels, or whatever. They work great for holy socks. I get a lot of holy socks. I got a lot of kids, so they always have holy socks. All right, I'm gonna go back up to the ball real quick. So I'm gonna dip that big fat round brush again and just bring in some brighter color over top of that darker. This top corner up here. So if I go a little wonky out there, remember again it's kind of a fuzzy ball, so that's okay by me. Alright. Alright, so he's done. This is done here. You know, a little black area showing through. One problem with using a hairdryer to dry your paint, if you have a lot of paint on, a really thick paint, it tends to peel and crack. Well, not peel, but crack. It can peel on you. So if you are going to use a hairdryer in between, keep it up far enough away or keep moving it so it's not on one spot too much. It can blister. Some of these guys are dry, so I'm going to come in here with my little, oh, it's not dry there. I'm just gonna Alright, so what I did is I dipped into my paintbrush, dipped the paintbrush into the white, but then kind of wiped some of it off, so it's kind of like a dry brush. So that I can add that in without it being too much of a line. Okay, this one's too big to use that, so I wouldn't use that for you guys. I wouldn't recommend it. I'd go back to your little detail brusher, so that you can kind of come in and just put a few little snow tops. You can do this while it's wet if you want. I mean, it'll just help blend the snow in a little bit better, so it won't look like it's so stark. Kind of just makes the tree lighten up the green areas. Just the top of the branches of the snow. You don't want to go on the bottoms because that really wouldn't be very realistic. Although it's not realistic anyway, so have at it. Have as much snow on there as you want, or leave the snow off completely. If you have stencils at home, you could use stencils for the writing if you wanted to put the writing on there. If you wanted to make your snowflakes just perfect, you could always use stencils for snowflakes as well. We'll be getting some snowflakes on there soon. Through and add a little bit of snow, a little bit on some of those lower branches, because some of them might be hanging out a little bit further. So just use your best judgment. You don't have to go crazy. You can actually put some across the branch too if you wanted to. The branch that was there at one time. Looks like he's got a lot of snow down here around this tree. I might give it some brown again because I got a little crazy there. Alright. Now snowflakes can be fun and they can be easy because you can just take the back of your paintbrush, dip into the white, and just dot, dot, dot. Go back in, start in that center one again, and bring it out again. Alright, so I'm making a line. I'm going to make an X. Starting in the middle again and bringing it back out. Alright. Middle, up, up, up. Middle. This way, middle, blah, 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 middle, blah, blah. Alright, so that could be one way that you can make the snowflake. Alright, just dots. You can paint them on with marker, if you have paint markers. If you have a white or a silver Sharpie marker. If you wanted to do these in glue and glitter again, that would be kind of fun. You can make them big, small, in between, change up the sizes. You could, like I said, you could use stencils, go crazy, have fun with them. Let's see here. If you're going to use a stencil, obviously wait till your paint's dry before you put them on, but I wanted to show you at least one snowflake there. you could, if you want it to look like it's snowing in the background and not actual big old flakes, you could take a watered down or a pretty wet brush with a little white and then just kind of splatter it. But then of course you have to watch where you're painting because it splatters everywhere. You could take something like this and pull back on the bristles. If you pull back, it splatters down, so you could be splattering it that way, and it looks more blizzardy. You could just have random dots all over the place and call those snowflakes from a distance. So a lot of options there. Alright, I'm going to come down here and show you his hands. I'm not going to do the little skin of his arms, which looks like there's a little bit on that one, because this looks weird to me. I'm just going to do the mittens like they're coming out of his body here. I am going to bring him a little further over this time, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do the bow up here or not. I think I might leave the bow off, or maybe I'll do it in glitter later, I don't know. But I kind of want to stick with the green, red and green theme for Christmas. He doesn't have to be a Christmas gnome. You could make this a Valentine's gnome. You could, obviously you might not have a pine tree there. You could make it for any time of the year. Let's go with a small. Alright, let's grab this little guy. This is a flat brush. It's a number 4. Again, doesn't really mean much to you. I'm just going to dip into that green. I'm going to try to move. I got too much stuff in my way here. Not enough room to paint. Now, if I wanted to give them the holly or the whatever, maybe you wouldn't want to do green, or you can make different color green. I'm just going to press down here and give him a hand out of his brim. Round it a little. It's not called a brim, it's his cuff. Alright, and on this side too, give him that little cuff, so it's kind of like a giant parenthesis going on there. I like using the flat brushes, but you can use round if you're more comfortable with the round brushes. You don't have to use flat brushes. I find I can control the line better with a flat brush. The round brushes flare out. These are already chiseled and cut, so I can keep it more chiseled. I think this guy looks a little lower. Just make it a little bit higher here. Alright. And then put his thumb on there again. And then I'm going to do the other one. Who likes gnomes? This guy. Alright. Chilly. Alright, so about where his brim of his, I keep calling it a brim, the cuff of his thing is. Just a little bit different from there. Right here. Here's the cuff, bring it up. And this. So that you can still see his thumb. Alright. I'm going to fill it in. You could have striped or plaid if you really wanted to. You could do these in plaid. You figure that out. Let me know which direction the plaid would be going on his mittens. That'd be weird because they, are kind of rounded, so all your lines would have to kind of rounded. You could cut out this shape out of some craft paper and glue those on. That could be a fun way to finish a project. So you don't have to paint everything. You can always make it a mixed media piece. In order to glue stuff like that on, I typically use Mod Podge. Mod Podge, yeah. I always say Mod Podge, but it's Mod Podge. This guy down here a little bit. Trying to make them about the same size, about symmetrical, but yeah, it is what it is. All right, now he could be holding a cookie, because it could be Santa Claus. I don't think I want to do the heart that's in the picture. A little Christmas tree would be kind of fun, but he's already got a tree up there. Ooh, it could be a gingerbread man cookie. Yeah, let's give him a gingerbread man. Okay. So if you want to do the heart, do the heart. I'm going to do a gingerbread cookie. Alright. So I'm going in with my skin color, my browns. There we go. The gingerbread cookie look. Alright, he needs a head. So we're going to give him a circle there for his head. If you have cookie cutters, you could put it down and fill it in or trace around it. All my cookie cutters are at school for my ceramics classes, so I only bring them home when I have a workshop here. Because I typically don't make cutout cookies. I make so many other cookies. My mom does the cutout cookies. Alright, then this guy comes out. His arms are here. We'll make him a little crooked. So we're going to do that, and his legs are going to come down this way, right? Alright. It's so quiet in here now, my heater went off. Normally I'd be listening to music, but every time I try to do one of these things while listening to music, someone comes on and tells me that I don't have permission to listen to that or to play that song with my video. Oh, I wasn't playing it. I was just listening to Pandora. Or I'll be listening to Life 102.5 online or 104.5 on the radio. All right. Some more paint. Fill in his body. Funny looking gingerbread man. See what happens when I don't have a reference photo? I just kind of make it up as I go. You would think that a gingerbread man would be pretty easy to remember how he's made. But then you start painting and going, Just working on trying to get him about the same size on both sides. So he's not Hercules on one side and then, you know, olive oil on the other. Just down. A little fatter on his legs down there. Alright, and then you can add his little face details and stuff on there if you want. Give him some eyeballs and let's give him blue eyes. And let's give him some buttons. I guess we'll keep them blue. I'm gonna turn off my heater because, yeah, it's cold. Alright, face if we want to. I'm going to grab one of my little detail brushes. I could grab a Sharpie marker because that's what I like to really do for details sometimes. But alright, let's give them some stripes. This is a 5-0. It's really tiny. Now, this is going to be kind of messy because my brown isn't dry, so I would wait till this is dry, but go ahead and we'll fit a little wiggly lines in there. Smiley face. I don't know, decorate them however you want. I do like making Christmas cookies. I just am not a fan of decorating that kind of stuff. We like doing some fun things with just round cookies. I'm going to add another coat of green to his gloves now that those are probably dry. You'll notice some colors cover better than others. Some you see brush strokes through and some you don't. It tends to usually be the lighter colors where you'll see like the red because of the way they make it with the base. They have to kind of use like a clear base to get more true color. If they have a white base to it, then it covers better. So if there's white in your paint, then you'll get that truer color, less brush strokes and whatever. But if they made it with a clear, then you tend to get brush strokes. So yeah, just put on more strokes, more layers. Not a big deal. Whew. Alright, let's use some hair dryer a little bit here. Noticing some spots that I want to kind of go over on my hat a little bit, so I'm going to do that right now. Back in with my red, for instance, right through here. On this side. Okay, I'm going to give him maybe a thin stripe that goes through here, just to break up that space a little bit more. Alright. Just add a couple fun little lines because I just like doing that in most of my paintings. I can find my small little detail brush. There we go. Alright, so whatever paint that I used in my picture, I like to add back in my painting somewhere. Just gonna do a few little dashes here and there. Again, you don't have to do this. Red. There, here, there. I find by doing stuff like this, it just helps tie those colors together a little bit better. Whatever color palette you used, sometimes you might go, that doesn't look right. But if you just do this, almost looks like he's bleeding. I don't know if I'll leave the red there or not. I think I'm going to put a couple more snowflakes in with my dot 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 method. Now if I wanted a larger snowflake, I could use a brush with a bigger handle on the back. I can space them apart farther. Go right off the page. Don't forget to wipe off the back of your brush, otherwise you'll get that in your hand later and then it'll go into the rest of your painting and you'll be like, oh! Let's see. I'm going to try to drag the line through here. Heavy-handed on that one. Alright, so I'm going to make my dots more. different shape. No two snowflakes look alike, so let's make them different. Turn a mistake into a happy accident. Oh, Bob Ross. It was so fun to watch paint. It's just very, very soothing voice. And just as you're like, no, Bob, don't, you're gonna ruin it. And you see what he did, and you're like, oh, that looks awesome. Alright, back on my paintbrush again. Try a few more. Alright, so just having some of those dots there for snow in the background and in the foreground. I could give him a little one on his nose, but I'm not going to. I have his little dot there, but like I said, you could use a paintbrush and splatter some on too. I just don't want to do that on this one. So I'll probably add a second coat to the gingerbread man. Of course, I already have his design on there. But there you have it, folks. That's one. Way of making it. Okay, so my Sharpie markers. Once I'm done, sometimes I do like to come around with a Sharpie. Now, if you want it to be more realistic, you wouldn't do this. This is kind of more cartoony, but obviously, those are real. Don't tell anyone. So I go through and I'll sometimes add some little details. Sometimes I don't. Definitely don't worry about tracing exactly. I know it might drive some people nuts because it's not in the line. Yeah, I know. I'm green in my hand now. Want that up for the rest of it. If I'm going to do anything around the hat, usually I just kind of give a couple of dark lines. Kind of hard to trace on, or for the Sharpie marker to show up on the black background, so don't worry about that too much. If you want to do a little bit of the tree, you could. I'm not going to. And there you have her, signer at the bottom, like always. Typically when I sign, it's just my first initial and my last name. The way I've been signing my artwork since high school. Of course, now I just dragged it through paint, so it won't write, but there we go. My maiden name. You know, if I ever get famous. Alright. So there you have it. I'm gonna turn off this screen here. I'll bring it down a little closer here so you can see it.